Kumusta ka mo? Hi, it's Victoria. So today I want to talk about something that's close to home. Did you know that there's a huge difference between tough love and abuse? Hindi pa rin yung duwa, ha? Ang abi mo sa bata ka nga tough love, hindi gali. They're either emotional, verbal, or physical abuse. And this whole process of writing this article is such an eye-opening for me because I am a mom. Baha, chinilas, hangir, kung ano pa da. Things that we were threatened with when we were kids to teach us a lesson, kuno. Tough love na siya, kuno, and it's supposedly good for us. Today, let's unpack what tough love is and isn't, and what kids who receive abuse in the guise of tough love growing up actually acquire from this when they turn into adults. Hindi bago ang concepts ng pagpaha sa aton, especially when we're growing up in a traditional Filipino family. Hambal nila, disiplina kung ginatudlo sini. Let's dissect the real meaning of tough love. The intention of tough love is for a parent to help the child learn as they grow up by letting them face the consequences of their actions instead of saving them from every time they make a mistake. The goal of tough love is to firmly teach a lesson today that will be evidently beneficial in the long run. But sometimes, when tough love goes way overboard, the consequences of making mistakes show up in different kinds of abuse built at home. Some parents resort into physical abuse. Batuhan ka sang chinilas kung hindi mo pagsundo ng ginisugo simo. Bubuan ka sang tubig kung hindi ka magpugtaw. Paluhodon ka sa munggo samtang may duha ka kalibro nga ginahawidan kung pilyo ka. Tampa o kung sabunot kung nagsabat ka. Ikulong ka sa kwarto kung makulit ka. Kusion ka kung hindi ka magsunod, all for love and discipline kuno. Ang iba naman suki sa verbal abuse. Tagwon ka nga ingrata, hampas lupa, bigaon, wala utang na loob. Kung ano pa da. They do this to supposedly call you out in bad behavior, but they just randomly throw mean things to you because they can. Sila ginikanan, ikaw, bata ka lang. So that's just the way it is. Well, at least that's what they say. And the worst part is that some parents are so comfortable with emotional abuse, they don't even know they're doing it. Diri pasok ang gaslighting kag stonewalling nga ginistoryanta a few weeks back. If you want to see what that is about or what's the meaning of gaslighting and stonewalling, then you may click this link to go to that video. When you make a mistake, some parents would make you feel like you're the worst person in the world by guilt-tripping you. Diri pasok ang mga linya nga ginpay eskwela, taka ginpakaon, taka ginalagaan, taka tapos amon ibalik mo sa akon. Or something in the lines of, hindi ka magsunod? Di-star ka sa panimalay ko? Kung hindi mo gusto patakaran ko, pues, layas. Okay na ba yung acting ko? Oscars na ba? Okay. Back to the topic. Like guilt-tripping you if you don't give. Di ba bago ka palang nagsweldo, kagamay man lang sa ngamon ng ginahinyo. Pero sige obrahan na lang namon sa paagi, hindi na lang kami magkaon. So, sala niya kay wala niyang ginhatag ang bilog niya nga sweldo sa inyo. So, guilt-tripping, power-tripping, and abusive behaviors are all hidden in the guise of tough love. And while most parents have the stern intention to use these tactics into making their children as good people, they fail to recognize that these techniques do not teach children. Instead, they harm your children. Ang problema instead nga maintindihan sang bata kung ano ang ginubra niya nga sala, mas nag-focus sa consequences kaysa sa problema. Instead of explaining to them what they did wrong and what the consequences of those actions are, they end up fearing you. In result, they start withdrawing from you and end up making up lies just so that they won't get reprimanded. They end up not being able to express their feelings because they're afraid to be told, sabat-sabat ka da? Bata talang ka, wala ka karapatan. As if people or children are meant to be perfect and are supposed to know the answer to everything. Reminder lang gali People are not built that way. So not only did that child not learn anything, but that child will also end up resenting you. Parents, children are not puppies. Bad experiences will never equal to never doing it again. Bad experiences will only attach resentment to the person who drove those bad experiences, and that's the parent who's holding the rod. So many parents today think that the spanking they got from when they were children disciplined them, or that manipulating them made them stronger. And because of this, abi nila, kinahanglan obrahon man ni sa mga bata nila para madisiplina man the way that they were disciplined. But where do we draw the line between discipline and abusive parenting? Because disciplining your kids means teaching a lesson, and teaching need not to resort to violence. Asian countries are widely known for this practice. Isa na tada kay tradisyon ko no, or tried and tested ko no. But before any parents there crucify me, this is scientific. Physical, verbal, and emotional abuse don't and will never help. Hindi na siya haka-haka lang ha. Studies show that spanking your child does more harm than good, especially in the long run. It increases aggression, violence, and antisocial behavior. If you want to learn better ways to discipline your child, then learn from better parents or child psychologists. But the problem is that there's a fine line between tough love and abuse, and that is the focus of our conversation today. Tough love focuses on what the child did wrong, and abuse focuses on degrading the child. You can correct your child without making them feel worthless, unwanted, useless. You can correct your child without leaving them wounds, bruises, and emotional trauma. You can teach your child discipline without calling them mean names. Because as a parent, the greatest lesson that you could ever impart to them is the way you treat them as children. Tough love's goal is for a child to learn and understand the mistakes and the consequences that goes with it. Abuse, on the other hand, only teaches fear and resentment. When a parent fails to stand by their tough love and ends up practicing abuse instead, here's what the child grows up thinking: that emotional and any kind of abuse is tough love. That means they will always see abusive relationships as a form of tough love. If you're not being abused or manipulated in a relationship, kasi hindi na siya tough love, kay sa balay pa lang amo na practice nyo eh. Our parents are supposedly the people who will love us the most. And if that's true, then the way our parents love us should be the gold standard of love, di ba? So kung ang bata nasanay nga ginamanipulate, ginahampak, o kung ginabuyayaw, by the time that they enter relationships and their partner physically and emotionally hurts them, they will think that it's okay, that their partners will eventually change because they love them. 2, that you deserve to be hurt when you fall short. When you grow up being hurt every time you fall short, it now is normal that it becomes true to the way you talk or the way you treat yourself. Diri ka umpisa ang self-sabotage. Kung nagsala ka, you will think that you need to hurt yourself to remember not to do it again. You start thinking that you deserve to be punished, you deserve to be left, you deserve to suffer. 3, you should hurt the people you love. The consequences of abuse don't just show up in the romantic relationships you have or the relationship with yourself. It also becomes a reflex when you become a parent. Not to say you become exactly like your mom and dad, but without conscious work, your parents' parenting techniques become your default. Amo na nabalaan mo eh, amo na nadakuan mo, and it just becomes a domino effect. And it goes on and on and on and on and on. Because not every parent is a conscious parent. So many people become parents before they even identify the harmful habits that they've been instilled with. This means they unconsciously pass on the culture of abuse hidden in tough love. Kung nagdako ka, nga ginahampak ka, you will most likely hit your child as well, unless you consciously decide otherwise. Kung nagdako ka nga ginabuyayaw, kasang ginikanan mo, you will most likely adapt the words that you grew up with and pass it on to your kids unless you consciously choose otherwise. Paano mo mabalaan kung tough love or abuse ang ginaobra sa imo? Well, here's a comparison to help you with that. Emotional abuse puts the character of the child in question while shaming the child. Tough love or discipline puts the wrong behavior in question while explaining to them the consequences of that action or that behavior. Punishment in the form of spanking, abusive remarks, or unrelated consequences. Example, if the kid's mistake was coming home late, the consequence would be spanking or manipulating. Discipline, on the other hand, is reprimanding the kid with a related consequence. So example, if the kid's mistake was coming home late, then the related consequence would be being grounded for a certain period of time, because that's the related consequence of the action. Or also explaining to them why not being able to go home late is a mistake, because you're worried that something bad will happen to them, and not just grounding them for the sake of that action, but you also have to explain why that action has a consequence of its own. Abuse is confronting with shame, while discipline confronts with solution. Abuse is reprimanding through a monologue of shameful words, while discipline is engaging in productive conversation. Take time to listen to what happened so that you know what to do to help. So how do we break the unhealthy domino effect? Reparent. Your default doesn't have to be your way of love. You are not your parents. So it's okay to disassociate yourself with the way they raised you. You can unlearn these bad habits and create ones that you believe in. When you unlearn negative traits, you respond based on what you believe in and not react to your knee-jerk reaction. Learn better ways to discipline. Know that we all come with baggage, but we don't have to pass it to people we love. If you grew up with abusive disciplining or bullying, your children do not have to live the same fate as you did. And to do this, you need to heal. Forgive yourself on the days that you felt hurt. Love your inner child the way they wanted to be loved. Treat yourself better. Love and choose to love. Love with forgiveness, love with understanding, and love the best way you know how. Give the kind of love that you believe in. Love that is patient, that is kind, that is true to you. We may not have control over the ways we were raised, but we do have control over what we become of it. So I hope we can learn from it instead. I hope we can learn how to be conscious of our default so we know how to be better. I hope we learn to heal, and I hope we learn to love. Have you experienced tough love or emotional, verbal, or physical abuse in disguise of tough love? Or was there any awakening that you've realized throughout this video? If you do, you can comment those down below and I'll be reading those comments. If you want more content such as this, please don't forget to hit that like, that share, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye.